The alarm woke Commander Alex Martinez from his deep sleep. Red lights flashed on the walls of his quarters as his terminal buzzed with an urgent message. He rolled out of bed and pulled on his uniform, rubbing his eyes as he hurried to the command. Center Deep Space Station Icarus hung quietly in the void between stars, far from Earth's solar system. Its mission was simple. Watch for signals from the black space beyond, monitor radio waves, and map the edges of known space. Most days were quiet, most days were routine. Today was different. "What do we have?" Martinez asked as he stepped onto the bridge. The night crew turned to face him, their faces showing worry and confusion. "It's a distress signal, sir," said Operator Jack Reynolds. "But not like anything we've seen before. The frequency patterns don't match any known civilization in our database." Martinez moved to the main screen. Strange symbols flickered across the display, along with mathematical sequences that seemed to repeat in distorted waves. "Can we decode it?" "Dr. Williams is already on it," Reynolds said. "She's been working on it for the past hour." Kate Williams looked up from her workstation when Martinez approached. Dark circles lined her eyes, and empty coffee cups covered her desk. As the station's lead xenobiologist and communications expert, she had the hardest job when unknown signals came through. "I think I've got something," Williams said, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. "The signal is using base 12 mathematics, which explains why it looked strange at first. But once I adjusted for that, the message became clearer." She pressed a button and new text appeared on the screen. "Help, I come. Please, dying. Systems. 3 worlds. Attack. No mercy. Help us." Martinez felt his stomach tighten. "Source? Galactic coordinates place it about 30 light-years from here," Williams said. "The signal is coming from a cluster of 3 star systems. Whoever sent this used a quantum burst transmission, which means they have technology we haven't seen before. Any other information?" Williams nodded and pulled up more data. "There are images embedded in the signal. They're fragmentary, but..." She clicked through several files. The screen filled with scenes of destruction, cities burning. Strange, insect-like creatures swarming over alien landscapes. Fleeing refugees with pale blue skin and multiple arms. "These are the Alarni," Williams explained. "I cross-referenced the body structure with our xenological database. They're part of the Confederation, a peaceful alliance of species known for their advanced mathematics and sciences." "Who's attacking them?" Martinez asked. "Unknown. But from the images they appear to be insectoid. The destruction patterns match what we know about warrior species. These aren't raiders or pirates, this is a full invasion." Martinez stood silent for a moment, processing the information. The station's primary mission was observation, not intervention. Earth had strict policies about getting involved in alien conflicts. But something about those burning cities made him pause. "Sir," came a call from across the bridge. "We're detecting another signal burst. It's directed at us." Williams quickly worked to decode the new message. This one was clearer, more desperate. "Any who can hear this message, please respond. We are the Alarni Confederation. Our 3 home systems are under assault by the Vorak Horde. They consume everything. They show no mercy. Our defenses fail. Our people die. We need help. Please. Anyone who can hear this, help us." The message repeated, growing weaker with each transmission. In the background, sounds of battle could be heard. Explosions, screaming, the mechanical clicking of the insectoid attackers. "Sir," Williams said softly, "if these coordinates are correct, the signal has been traveling for months. Given the quantum burst technology, it means they could have been overrun by now." Martinez finished. The bridge fell quiet. Earth's first contact protocols were clear. Observe, don't interfere, report to Earth Command. But something in Martinez's gut told him those protocols hadn't considered a situation like this. "Open a channel to Earth Command," he ordered. "Priority 1. And someone wake up Dr. Patel. We might need her expertise on alien physiology." "Sir." Reynolds spoke up hesitantly. What about the Galactic Council? Shouldn't they be handling this? The Alarni are part of their confederation, aren't they? Yes, Williams answered, bringing up another display. I've been monitoring council channels. They're debating. The Catherian Empire, who leads the local sector, has a policy of non-intervention in species conflicts. They're calling for a formal vote. With their bureaucracy, that could take weeks. Martinez clenched his fists. Weeks. While people died, while worlds burned. Sir, Williams called out again. I'm picking up other transmissions now, not distress, calls. These are tactical updates, battle reports. The Vorak are using their victims' own communication networks against them. From what I can understand, the Alarni have lost all military vessels. Ground forces are falling back to fortified cities. They're running out of options. A new face appeared on the monitor. It was one of the Alarni, wearing what looked like official robes. When it spoke, the translation software made its voice sound mechanical but desperate. I am Ambassador Sharaketh of the Alarni Confederation. If any civilization receives this message, please respond. We are out of time. Our fourth planet has fallen. The Vorak are stripping it bare even now. Our defenses on the second planet will not hold another day. We need help. We need anyone. The transmission cut off abruptly. Static filled the screen. Martinez turned to his crew. Every face watched him, waiting for orders. Earth's protocol seemed so distant now, so abstract in the face of real suffering. Reynolds, send a complete data package to Earth Command. Include everything, the distress calls, the images, all of it. Williams, see if you can establish direct contact with the Alarni. Let them know someone is listening, and start analyzing their technical data. If we're going to help, we need to understand what we're dealing with. Sir, someone called out, are we really considering this? We could start an interstellar war. Earth barely has a dozen ships capable of deep space travel. Martinez looked at the image of burning cities frozen on the screen. We can't just watch them die. Prep the communication arrays. We're going to figure out what humanity can do to help. Orders flowed across the bridge as Icarus came to full alert. In the depths of space, humanity had heard a cry for help. Whether they had the power to answer remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. They would try. Deep in the station's archives, quantum computers began compiling files. Ancient texts, historical accounts, military documents that most humans had hoped would never be needed again. Without realizing it, the crew of Icarus had set in motion something that would change not just the future of the Alarni Confederation, but the status of humanity among the stars. The universe was about to learn what happened when you asked humanity for help. It would learn to be careful what it wished for. The UES Pioneer dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Alarni system. Captain John Parker stood on the bridge, watching the main screen as their sensors painted a picture of destruction. Dark smoke drifted through space from burning orbital stations. Debris fields marked where ships had died. Scans coming in now, sir, reported the sensor officer. Multiple hostiles in the system. Vorak ships are surrounding the second planet. Parker studied the tactical display. The Vorak vessels looked massive, black, and deadly. They resembled giant insects with sharp edges and weapon ports that glowed a sickly green. His own ship, the Pioneer, was Earth's newest exploration vessel, but it wasn't designed for combat. It carried minimal weapons and no shields that could match what he was seeing. Open hailing frequencies, let's announce ourselves, Parker ordered. A moment later, an Alarni face appeared on the screen. The alien had blue skin, 4 eyes, and 3 delicate arms that moved nervously. When it spoke, its voice trembled with hope. This is unbelievable. You came. You actually came. The Alarni's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. I am High Counselor, Taran. We didn't think anyone would answer our call. This is Captain John Parker of the United Earthship Pioneer, he replied. We received your distress signal. What's your current situation? Taran's expression darkened. The Vorak have destroyed our fleet. They control space around our second planet and are beginning their assault on the third. Our ground defenses can't hold much longer. We have civilians trapped on both worlds. What about your allies? The Galactic Council? They're still debating whether to intervene, Terran said, bitterly. The Catherian Empire leads this sector, and they follow strict non-aggression policies. They won't act without a full council vote. That could take weeks. Parker exchanged glances with his first officer, Lieutenant Sam Blake. They'd expected as much based on the intelligence briefings from Station Icarus. Counselor Terran, we need to assess the situation firsthand. Can we send a team to your surface? Yes. Yes, please. We'll provide coordinates for safe landing zones. 2 hours later, Lieutenant Blake led a ground team through the smoking ruins of what had been a city. The Alarni had provided environment suits, though the atmosphere was close enough to Earth's that they could breathe it. Buildings lay toppled like broken toys. Fires still burned in the distance. Alarni civilians moved through the streets, attempting to salvage belongings or search for missing family members. These burn patterns, Blake murmured, studying a melted section of building. High-temperature plasma weapons, very efficient at destroying structures. Dr. Maya Patel, the Pioneer's medical officer, knelt beside an injured Alarni. Their medical technology is impressive, she observed as she watched local doctors work. They're ahead of us in biotechnology and regenerative medicine, but their weapons... She gestured toward the defensive emplacements along the city perimeter. They're surprisingly primitive. That's because the Alarni have been at peace for centuries, explained their guide, Scientist Kremak. We focused on science, art, and medicine. The Galactic Confederacy was supposed to protect us from threats like the Vorak. Blake examined one of the defensive weapons. These projectile launchers are effective, but your targeting systems are too slow for Vorak attack patterns. You're fighting a reactive defense when you need predictive systems. We don't understand, Kremak admitted. What do you mean? Your weapons wait for the enemy to appear before they fire. The Vorak move too fast for that. You need to anticipate where they'll be. The ground shook as Vorak fighters streaked overhead, their green plasma weapons lighting up the sky. Alarni defensive fire trailed behind them, always a second too late. Captain, Blake said into his communicator, we need to implement immediate tactical changes if they're going to survive. Back aboard the Pioneer, Parker called a meeting with his senior staff and Counselor Terran via holographic link. We can't fight your war for you, Parker explained. Earth has policies about direct military intervention in alien conflicts, but we can offer advisors, training, and technical assistance. Terran's 4 eyes widened. You would help us? Even though we're not part of your alliance, you barely know us. You asked for help, Parker said simply. We heard you. Lieutenant Blake brought up tactical displays. Your people are brave, but you're fighting like scientists trying to use textbooks in a fistfight. We can teach you how to fight smarter. Guerrilla tactics, asymmetric warfare, psychological operations. Guerrilla tactics? Terran asked, unfamiliar with the term. Small unit operations, Blake explained. Hit-and-run attacks, using your knowledge of the terrain against invaders, making them afraid to advance even when they have superior numbers and technology. This sounds barbaric, Terran said uncertainly. War is barbaric, Blake replied. The only question is whether you want to survive it. After a moment's hesitation, Terran nodded. Teach us. Over the next several days, Pioneer's crew worked with Alarni forces. Human military advisors introduced concepts that seemed alien to the peaceful species. Blake demonstrated how to ambush Vorak patrols. He showed them how to use their forearms for simultaneous attacks and how to turn their superior numbers into an advantage through coordinated assaults. Dr. Patel shared Earth medical knowledge, trading information with Alarni biochemists. She was amazed by their regenerative techniques but noticed they'd never developed treatments for combat trauma. Your bodies can regrow limbs, she observed, but you've never needed to develop protocols for battlefield medicine. Meanwhile, Parker noticed something interesting in the Alarni technical databases. Your quantum communication technology is fascinating. You're transmitting encrypted data through quantum entanglement? Yes, Kremak confirmed proudly. It's nearly instantaneous across stellar distances. And your molecular engineering capabilities. Parker studied the readouts. You can manipulate matter at the atomic level? Of course, that's basic technology, though we mainly use it for medical applications and structural materials. Parker's mind raced with possibilities. Earth had different strengths, their warfare technology, strategic thinking, and years of studying conflict. The Alarni had peaceful applications for incredibly advanced science. Together, Counselor, Parker said carefully, if we're going to help you effectively, we'll need access to some of Earth's deeper military archives, historical documents, strategic files. You would share your military secrets with us? If you're going to survive this war, you need to understand how to think like a warrior species. Terran hesitated, clearly struggling with the moral implications. Our people have always believed in knowledge sharing. We'll grant you access to our archives as well. That night, as the Pioneers' communication arrays linked with Earth's military databases, downloading files marked with ancient warning codes, Parker wondered what they were unleashing. The Alarni had asked for help. They were getting what they asked for, but what would that mean for both species? The Vorak attacked again at dawn. This time, Alarni forces used the new tactics. Small units hit supply lines. Ambush teams targeted. Isolated Vorak squad. Instead of defending fixed positions, they used mobile warfare, striking and retreating before the enemy could respond effectively. From orbit, Parker watched with satisfaction as Vorak battle plans faltered for the first time. They weren't prepared for an enemy that fought differently, but deep in his quarters, reviewing the files being transmitted from Earth, Parker felt a chill run down his spine. The documents included more than just tactics and strategies. They contained something darker, something that Earth had hoped to leave behind in its past. The universe was about to learn that humanity carried knowledge that other species couldn't even imagine, knowledge that could save worlds or destroy them completely. Colonel Ben Wright watched as 50 Alarni soldiers practiced their new combat moves. His weeks of teaching were paying off, but something felt strange about training a species that had known only peace for generations. The Alarni learned quickly, their forearms giving them unique advantages in close combat. No, Wright corrected one soldier. Don't just react to the attack. Anticipate where the enemy will move next. Think 3 steps ahead. The Alarni soldier nodded, all 4 eyes focused on the training exercise. Wright noticed how they adapted human techniques to their own physiology. What humans did with 2 hands they could do with 4. What humans saw with 2 eyes they could observe with 4. In another training area, Commander Nora Ryan taught demolitions and sabotage. The Alarni gathered around as she demonstrated how to turn everyday materials into explosives. Their reactions ranged from fascination to horror. Your people never developed weapons like these? Ryan asked, surprised. We had no need, answered Warrior Kalen, one of the more aggressive Alarni recruits. When the Confederation formed, all member species agreed to peaceful development. We thought our advanced shields and diplomatic solutions would prevent war, but they didn't, Ryan said bluntly. Captain Parker entered the training facility, Lieutenant Blake following close behind. They looked troubled. Colonel Wright, Commander Ryan, I need you to report to Conference Room A immediately. Bring any Alarni commanders who can be spared. 20 minutes later, the conference room held a tense mixture of humans and Alarni. Parker stood at the head of the table, a secured datapad in his hand. The files from Earth's military archives have arrived, he announced. Some of them are concerning. They're marked with the highest security classifications. Black book files. Forbidden knowledge protocols. What kind of files? Asked Counselor Terran, who had joined the meeting. Parker hesitated. Comprehensive warfare documentation. Everything humanity learned during our most brutal conflicts. Chemical warfare, biological weapons, psychological manipulation tactics, nuclear strategy. The Alarni present stirred uneasily. Wright noticed how their skin color shifted slightly, a sign of emotional distress he'd learned to recognize. You're telling us, Terran said slowly, that Earth keeps detailed records of how to destroy entire civilizations? Yes. Parker admitted. After our last major conflict, the global wars, humanity decided to preserve all knowledge about warfare. The theory was that if we understood the full horror of what we were capable of, we'd never repeat it. And now, you're sharing this with us? Only what's necessary to help you survive. But I need you to understand. Some of this knowledge changes you. Once you know certain things, you can't unknow them. Lieutenant Blake brought up a holographic display, for example, Project Shadowcat. It's a psychological warfare program that studies how to break an enemy's will without destroying their infrastructure. The Vorak use terror tactics, but even they don't understand the level of psychological manipulation possible. Wright added, "We've already taught you basic guerrilla tactics, but Earth's archives contain something called the Warsaw Protocol. It's a comprehensive guide to urban resistance warfare, how to turn an occupied city into a nightmare for invaders." "What does that involve?" asked General Laxtor, the highest-ranking Ilarni military commander present. Wright looked to Parker, who nodded. "Booby traps using children's toys, poisoning water supplies in controlled ways, using civilian infrastructure to create kill zones, making the enemy so paranoid they destroy their own forces through friendly fire." The room fell silent. Dr. Patel, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "There's also medical research from Earth's darker periods, biological agent development, genetic targeting, ways to create diseases that only affect specific species." "Why would you develop such things?" Taryn asked, clearly disturbed. "Because other species were developing them too," Blake replied. "In Earth's history, the only defense against a terrible weapon was often to develop it yourself as a deterrent." Scientist Kremak, who had been reviewing data on a smaller pad, looked up with alarm. "Some of these files are automatically updating. They're drawing data from our own research databases. What is this Project Pandora that keeps appearing in the logs?" Parker closed his eyes briefly before answering. Project Pandora was Earth's contingency plan during our final global conflict. It's an AI-assisted warfare system that continuously updates and optimizes destruction protocols based on all available scientific knowledge. When we linked our systems to yours, Pandora automatically began analyzing Vorak biology and technology. "You brought an artificial intelligence that designs weapons?" Taryn's voice rose in pitch. "It's dormant," Parker assured him. "It only activates with multiple failsafe authorizations, but it's already identified several weaknesses in the Vorak that we hadn't noticed." Ryan pulled up new data. "According to Pandora's preliminary analysis, the Vorak have a critical vulnerability in their respiratory system. If we could develop an aerosol agent that targets their oxygen-nitrogen exchange—" "You're talking about biological warfare," Kremak interrupted, horrified. "I'm talking about survival," Ryan countered. "The Vorak are stripping your planets bare. They're consuming your people. Do you want to debate ethics or do you want to live?" The debate continued for hours. Some Ilarni were repulsed by the human military knowledge. Others, especially those who had seen their families killed by the Vorak, argued they needed every advantage possible. Wright noticed something interesting during the arguments. The Ilarni who were quickest to adapt to combat training were also the most willing to consider darker tactics. War was already changing them. Later that night, Blake found Wright reviewing files alone. "Having second thoughts?" Blake asked. "About what we're doing? Or about whether we should?" Wright replied. "I keep thinking about that phrase from the archives, the one attributed to some ancient Earth philosopher." "Which one?" "If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss gazes back into you." We're about to introduce a peaceful species to humanity's abyss of warfare knowledge. What gazes back? Blake sat down beside him. The Vorak already brought them to the edge of that abyss. We're just giving them the tools to climb out. Or to dive deeper, Wright countered. Some of these Ilarni are already showing signs. The ones who hate the Vorak most are becoming the most eager students. They're not just learning to fight, they're learning to hate effectively. Command came through on the intercom. All senior staff, report to the bridge immediately. The Vorak have launched a new offensive. They've detected the change in our tactics. As they hurried to respond, Wright wondered if they were creating saviors or monsters. The line between survival and brutality seemed to blur more each day. On the bridge, Parker studied the incoming reports. The Vorak were adapting to the Alarni's new tactics. They needed something stronger, something more effective. "Sir," Blake reported, "Pandora has finished its analysis. It's ready to propose biological countermeasures." Parker stared at the authorization screen. With one command, he could unleash knowledge that Earth had hoped never to use again. Knowledge that could end this war but might also end the innocent species they were trying to save. The Alarni waited for his decision. Humanity held the power to reshape this war. The question was, at what cost? Dr. Patel worked alone in the medical lab, her hands shaking as she reviewed the genetic data. Professor Amy Chen, Earth specialist in ancient warfare studies who had arrived 2 days ago, stood beside her. The massive holographic displays showed complex molecular structures. "This is what Pandora designed?" Patel asked, her voice barely a whisper. "A virus that specifically targets Vorak chitin production?" Chen nodded grimly. "The preliminary models show it would spread through their ranks within days. Their exoskeletons would begin to soften, then dissolve. They would essentially liquefy from the outside in. That's not warfare. That's genocide." "It's survival," Chen corrected. "When humanity developed these weapons, we were facing similar circumstances. Total war, complete extinction as the alternative." Down the corridor, Lieutenant Blake conducted a different kind of training session. A group of Alarni soldiers sat around captured Vorak equipment. Their atmosphere suits made small adjustments as they learned to handle the alien technology. "These are their standard atmospheric processors," Blake explained. "The Vorak need higher nitrogen levels than most species. That's why they convert planetary atmospheres so aggressively." Scout leader Wren, who had proven one of Blake's most dedicated students, examined the device carefully. "Could we modify these?" "To do what?" "To disperse something else. An airborne agent, perhaps?" Blake studied the Alarni carefully. 2 months ago, Wren had been a peaceful explorer, mapping asteroids. Now there was something cold in his expression. The war had changed him. Theoretically, yes, but remember what we discussed about tactical weapons versus strategic ones. A tactical weapon wins battles. A strategic weapon wins wars but loses souls. "We're already losing our souls," Wren replied. "Every day the Vorak advance, every civilian they consume. What's left to save?" In the command center, Captain Parker faced a barrage of questions from Earth Command. The video connection flickered as Admiral Richards demanded answers. "You've authorized the transmission of classified warfare data to an alien species?" Richards looked furious. "Do you understand the precedent this sets?" "Sir, the Alarni are facing extinction. We have the knowledge that could save them. And if they misuse that knowledge, if they become the next threat to galactic peace?" Parker chose his words carefully. "The Vorak are a known threat. They'll strip this system bare, then move to others. Stopping them helps everyone. Just remember, Parker, once this knowledge is out there, you can't take it back." Later that day, Parker called all hands to the main conference room. The Alarni leadership joined via communication link. He could see the tension in every face. "Dr. Patel has completed the bioweapon analysis. The design is effective. Deployment would end the Vorak threat within 2 weeks." A murmur ran through the assembled crew. Some looked relieved. Others appeared disturbed. "However," Parker continued, "I won't authorize its use without full understanding of what we're contemplating. Dr. Patel, explain the mechanism." Patel stood, her face pale. "The virus attacks the Vorak ability to produce chitin, their exoskeleton material. Within 48 hours, affected individuals begin to experience structural failure. Their shells soften, then break down. The internal organs are exposed. Death follows within hours of advanced infection." The room fell silent. "To put this in perspective," Patel continued, "infected Vorak would essentially dissolve alive. The process is horrific, and the virus spreads rapidly through their atmospheric processors and ventilation systems. Physician Thelavin, the Alarni medical advisor, spoke up. By our cultural standards, this is an abomination. To create suffering on such a scale? By any species standards, it's monstrous, Parker agreed. Which is why I'm putting this to a vote. Our mission was to help. The question is, does helping justify becoming monsters ourselves? The debate raged for hours. Some argued the virus was the only way to stop the Vorak advance before the third planet fell. Others insisted there had to be another way. The Alarni were divided among themselves. Colonel Wright observed the changing dynamics. Notice something interesting. The Alarni who've seen the most combat are the most willing to use the bioweapon. Those who've only helped with medical care or supply lines are more hesitant. Blake nodded. War hardens people to the realities of survival. The question is whether that hardening is necessary evolution or moral corruption. Final arguments came from unexpected sources. Commander Ryan stood at the podium, her expression conflicted. I've taught these people how to use explosives. How to sabotage, how to kill efficiently. All of that is warfare, but this, she gestured at the bioweapon data. This is something else. We're not warriors anymore if we use this. We're executioners on a massive scale, Counselor Terran countered from the Alarni side. My people have studied your history. You developed nuclear weapons to end a war that had already killed millions. Was that different? You invented firebombing that destroyed entire cities. Where is the line between acceptable warfare and absolute evil? Professor Chen provided historical context. Every major human conflict pushed the boundaries of warfare technology. We always promised ourselves we'd never go too far. But too far kept changing as the stakes increased. The question isn't whether this weapon is right or wrong. The question is whether the alternative is worse. After 6 hours of debate, Parker called for the vote. The result was close, but the decision was made. They would authorize the deployment of the bioweapon if the Vorak breached the third planet's defenses. However, Parker added, this knowledge doesn't leave this room. We're not just changing the course of this war, we're potentially changing the nature of galactic warfare forever. What we do here will echo through history. In her quarters that night, Dr. Patel reviewed the bioweapon protocols one last time. A message from Blake appeared on her screen. The hardest part of being human isn't knowing how to destroy. It's knowing when to use that knowledge. She thought about the Hippocratic oath she'd taken, centuries-old words from Earth's medical tradition. First, do no harm. But what happened when the only way to help required ultimate harm? Outside, the war continued. Vorak forces massed for their final push. The peaceful Alarni had learned to fight like warriors, and humanity had shared knowledge that no species should ever have to use. The darkness had been unleashed. Now they had to live with what they'd become. The first reports came in 48 hours after release. Scout leader Wren had deployed the bioweapon at 3 strategic locations using modified Vorak atmospheric processors. The virus spread faster than anyone predicted. The Vorak are retreating, reported Lieutenant Blake from the tactical station. Their ground forces are pulling back in panic. They're trying to evacuate to their ships. Captain Parker stood on the bridge, watching the orbital displays. Vorak vessels were leaving formation, some fleeing the system entirely. But the celebrations around him felt hollow. Dr. Patel. Status of the infection spread? Patel's voice was flat. The virus jumped to orbiting ships within 12 hours. Contaminated, Vorak troops carried it aboard during withdrawal. Their ship's atmospheric filtration systems accelerated the spread. Show me, Parker commanded. The main screen displayed intercepted Vorak communications. Even with translation filters, the sounds of suffering were unmistakable. Vorak soldiers clutched at their softening exoskeletons, their hard shells turning to jelly. The virus worked exactly as designed. Horribly effective. Counselor Terran appeared. On the communication screen, his 4 eyes filled with mixed emotions. Captain, we owe you everything. The Vorak threat to our worlds is ending, but we intercepted something. A message from their homeworld. They received distress calls. They know what happened. Parker's stomach tightened. Show me. Another signal played. A Vorak voice translated through their systems spoke with unexpected clarity. To those who created this plague, your biological weapon has reached our colonies. Our warriors return infected. Our civilians now suffer. You have declared war, not just on our soldiers but on our species. There can be no peace between us now. The bridge fell silent. They had stopped an invasion but potentially created an eternal enemy. Days passed as cleanup operations began. The virus continued its work through the Vorak population. Reports suggested nearly 70% infection rates among the invasion force. Their bodies dissolved into the ground of the second and third planets. Colonel Wright found Dr. Patel staring at the medical reports. Having second thoughts? I keep thinking about the nuclear scientists on Earth, the ones who worked on the first atomic bombs. They ended a war but lived with guilt for decades. We've done the same thing, except... She gestured at the gruesome casualty reports. This is so much more personal, so much more painful. War is never clean, Wright said. We knew that when we shared our knowledge. Professor Chen organized the data for the final report to Earth Command and the Galactic Council. The bioweapon killed an estimated 2.3 million Vorak, saved approximately 8 million Alarni. From a pure mathematics perspective, it was the right choice. Except mathematics don't feel pain, Blake commented, or fear death. The Galactic Council summoned representatives from both Earth and the Alarni Confederation. Captain Parker, Counselor Terran, and several others traveled to the council station on the edge of known space. High Judge Kalen presided over the hearing. His ancient species had seen countless conflicts across millennia. Explain your actions. Why did you introduce biological weapons to this conflict? Taran spoke first. We requested help. Humanity provided what was necessary to save our species from extinction. Parker followed. The bioweapon was not developed during this conflict. It existed in Earth's historical archives. We merely applied existing knowledge to a new threat. And the safeguards meant to prevent such weapons being used again? Kalen pressed. Counselor William Burke, Earth's ambassador to the galactic community, responded carefully. Our archives were shared under Alliance protocols. The Alarni needed all available options to survive. The Council debated for weeks. Finally, their decision came. While we condemn the use of biological warfare, we acknowledge the desperate circumstances. However, Earth and the Alarni Confederation must submit all biological weapons knowledge to Council oversight immediately. Parker knew better. The knowledge can't be unlearned. Even if we delete every file, the concept exists now. Other species will start developing their own bioweapons as defense against similar threats, and they did. Within months, the first reports emerged of other species beginning biological research programs. The galactic arms race had evolved to a new, darker level. Commander Alex Martinez, now stationed permanently at a joint Earth-Alarni facility, reviewed the changes. The universe is different now, more dangerous. We opened a door that can't be closed. Former Commander Ryan agreed. But was there another choice? The Vorak would have consumed 3 worlds. That's what we tell ourselves to sleep at night, Martinez replied. The Alarni civilization slowly recovered. Their 3 worlds began rebuilding, but the peaceful species had fundamentally changed. They maintained a standing military force now. They developed their own weapons research programs. They had learned fear. Former scout leader Ren, now a military commander, oversaw defensive installations. My people used to believe peace was the natural state of the universe. Now we know better. We know that sometimes you must become the monster to fight monsters. In Earth's archives, new entries appeared. Case study: Alarni bioweapon deployment. Results: strategic victory, tactical success, moral cost, immeasurable. A year after the conflict ended, representatives from both species met at the edge of the Alarni system. A memorial floated in space, marking the battle sites and the lives lost on both sides. Dr. Patel delivered a speech that would echo through galactic history. We saved a species today. We also learned what we're capable of when pushed to the edge. The universe now knows that humanity keeps knowledge of darkness. They fear us, respect us, and understand that we won't hesitate to use what we know. Captain Parker watched from his new flagship, the UES Defender. Other species had requested human military advisors. Earth had become known as the species to call when peaceful solutions failed. They were seen as both saviors and potential threats. "Sir," Blake asked him, "do you think we did the right thing?" Parker looked at the stars, where countless species now developed biological countermeasures based on Earth's shared knowledge. "We did what was necessary. Whether it was right, history will decide that. But one thing is certain: the galaxy will never see humanity the same way again." The memorial's inscription was simple but profound. Here, peace learned to fight. Here, mercy learned cruelty. Here, the darkness was unleashed. As the ships departed, a new whisper spread through interstellar communication networks. When species faced extinction, when war became absolute, there was one call they could make. One species with knowledge dark enough, terrible enough to win any war. They called it the Pandora Protocol. The universe had learned to be careful what it wished for when calling humanity for help.